Horace.
Thank you very much, Mr Deputy Speaker, and may I congratulate and thank the Honourable Lady, the member for Merioneth. With a name like Morris, I should really be able to speak Welsh, but fifth generation Welsh, but it is a really important subject that we're discussing today, and I'm very pleased to have the opportunity to make a few brief points in this debate that's unexpectedly a little longer than was originally planned. I think this is really important, and we are, you know, it's tempting to lapse into puns and humour and so on, but this is a serious business. I actually, as you well know, Mr Deputy Speaker, I love beer, me. You know, I love Indian Pale Ale, I love the Ruby Reds, I love a craft lager, I love all beers, but we're talking here not about the mass production of the big six brewers. We're talking about the small, there are 90 in Wales, but 2,500 small breweries across the country, and including the Castle Eden brewery. I must mention my own brewery, they would never forgive me, which produces probably the finest beer in the world, is amongst them. And we are, as my honourable friend has indicated, talking about measures here. What's it called? Castle Eden Ale. Castle Eden Ale. And I highly recommend it. Good question. Yeah. And you know, we are talking about a really important issue of whether the government intentionally or unintentionally is introducing some anti-competitive practices. It's been suggested, perhaps not without foundation, that the large brewers do have the ear of ministers. And let's be in no doubt, the abolition of small brewers' relief will be the death knell for many small brewers all across the country, in Wales and across the whole of the United Kingdom. As has rightly been pointed out, the introduction of small brewers' relief did lead to a renaissance in British brewing, and the reform should go towards strengthening small, independent and craft brewers that we are so proud of, and the tourists and indigenous people on these islands love in equal measure. So I do hope the government would not make any changes below 5,000 hectolitres. To do so would threaten our craft beer industry and local jobs in constituency like mine, and even worse, consumers like me ultimately losing out with less variety and less choice of beer. We should celebrate the diversity of brewers and different beers and different tastes, and we shouldn't be doing anything that's going to jeopardise that. I do worry, Mr Speaker, that the decision to convert small brewers' relief from a percentage to a cash basis does threaten the long-term value of the small brewers' rate if that doesn't keep pace with the main rate. And, you know, we get lost in numbers. What does 5,000 hectolitres mean? Well, it's kind of 3,000 barrels in old money, old brewers' barrels. And my brewery, the Castle Eden brewery, produces just over 3,000 barrels, 5,000 hectolitres. Now let's compare that with not one of the big six or the big four who are producing millions of hectolitres, but with the Cameron brewery in Hartlepool, a producer of fine beer nonetheless, but a volume producer that produce 1 million hectolitres. It's impossible for a small brewery to compete with the economies of scale that a large brewery can bring to bear. So these changes, unless they're carefully thought out, unless there's careful thought given to the taper after 5,000 hectolitres, will effectively bring an end to this prized and valued sector. So I've just got a couple of questions for the Minister, Mr Speaker, because I know I promised to be brief. I'd like to ask the Minister, and I've listened to several debates and to questions. Does she accept that cutting the threshold will lead to small breweries paying more duty than they do today? And does she understand that that's going to result in some small breweries closing? Because remember that the basis of the premise is that it would be neutral in terms of revenue raising. And can I ask the Minister, how will she judge the success of her policy? Will it be in the number of the UK's small breweries, the number of people employed by the industry, or will it be by reducing the market share of the big four which dominate? And I'd very much like to know what the Treasury's objections are and how they're going to measure success. Thank you very much, Mr Deputy Speaker.